Good day, friends. Welcome to Our Power is Within, a weekly podcast to inspire you to take your power back. I'm your host, Chaz Smith, aka Just Chaz. So, in this moment, what is something that you are grateful for? Can you take a pause and really take it in? Breathe in this gratitude. Could you make a commitment this week and spend 1 minute per day allowing yourself to feel grateful for something in your present moment? Maybe one day it's the sound of the birds chirping. Or one day is the way that the sunshine shimmers over the dewy grass. Or maybe it's even the aroma of coffee brewing or the taste of something sweet and delicious on your tongue. It's only 1 minute of your day, and I understand how it can feel easy to blow this off and think to yourself that it wouldn't make a difference. But it's truly the little things that we do over and over that yield the biggest results. Plus, when we can make small commitments like 1 minute a day and then we achieve it, what we're doing for ourselves is reaffirming our success. Something I heard today from somebody else was, little by little becomes a lot. I'll say it again. Little by little becomes a lot. So try it out and let me know how it goes this week. Getting into our interview, our guest today is Heather Peterson. She's the founder of Pain Free for Good. She's a mind-body healing coach. Heather has a really awesome story that she is sharing with us today that includes not only her healing from a laundry list of symptoms, but also her husband's recovery from chronic back pain and how she's been able to take the principles that she has learned along the way and help her children and set them up for success, to connect with their emotions so that they don't manifest into physical realms. We do talk a lot today about TMS and Dr. John Sarno. TMS, it stands for either tension myoneural syndrome or tension myositis syndrome. And it's a term coined by the early works of Dr. Sarno and how he was able to connect our mind and body together to understand the power the mind has on the physical manifestation of symptoms. At the end of the day, it is important to remember too that all pain ultimately comes from a result of our brain and nervous system simply trying to protect us and keep it safe. We learned today how to experience physical healing through doing the inner work and allowing ourselves to feel. I think you will really enjoy today's episode with Heather. Follow her along on Instagram, and let's go ahead and welcome her to the show. All right, Heather, thank you so much for being here with me today on the show. I'm really excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So like I had mentioned previously, I'm so excited to hear your full story and let the listeners hear your story because I know that this started out as a quest for you searching for an answer or a solution for your husband's pain, and it led you into a beautiful experience of also healing a host of things that you had also experienced that up until the discovery of mind-body syndrome, it seems like maybe you didn't even realize you were on this quest for both of you initially.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't have an idea that I would be healing myself when I was searching for answers from my husband's own healing of his back pain. So it's been an amazing journey, that's for sure.
That's awesome. And his back pain is healed then?
Yes. Yep. He was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis and a plethora of other symptoms, eye pain, sleep problems, all kinds of things. The list goes on, just like my list went on and on. But yeah, he is pain-free, that's for sure.
That's amazing. And so I read that you initially I think you went to a seminar back in 2010 that talked about pain and stress. And then you went home and researched mind body healing, and you were, that led you to Dr. Sarno.
Yes. Yep. I went to a convention with my husband in Vegas, and it was 2015. So my husband had been suffering for 6 years with horrible, horrible back pain. And I went to a seminar that talked about how the stress affects the body, and which led me to looking for the doctor's book of the seminar that I had gone to. And that led me to Healing Back Pain by Dr. Sarno. And it just was a spiral of knowledge after that. So that's how I came to be where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. And so what would you say was the time, like what transpired from Dr. Sarno? What was next? And what did you end up learning, or what was the catalyst for your healing as far as the books or knowledge or, belief systems around it all?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I ordered Healing Back Pain by Dr. Sarno for my husband because I had read all the reviews online, and I just figured, you know what? I am desperate to have him heal from this back pain. And I truly felt that stress was such a huge thing for him, that was what was causing his pain, because we had been to a myriad of doctors and spent thousands and thousands of dollars going to all these different places, buying all these different tools that were hopefully going to help him, and they didn't. And so I just had this faith that we were on the right path with this book. And so I gave it to him, and I said, I don't know anything about this book. I haven't read it, but I think this is going to help you. And so he's like, I'll try anything. And so he read the book. And while he was reading the book, he said, Heather, this is you too. This is not just me. All of these personality traits are you too. And they talk about all of the different things that you've been through, chronic fatigue, vertigo, adrenal fatigue, hypothyroidism, hormone imbalance, female issues, migraines, back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, plantar fasciitis, sinus problems. I mean, I had it all, and I had no idea that by reading that book to help him, it was going to help me as well. And so I read that book, and I was just so amazed at, wow, all of these things that we've gone through all of our lives have led us to this point where our bodies aren't suddenly deteriorating. They're actually shouting out for us to listen and acknowledge them. And so that was a huge wake-up call for me. And so Dr. Sarno's book was the beginning point of my healing journey. So it was pretty powerful to learn that my repressed emotions and my traumas were actually causing my pain, and not just a sudden deterioration of my body. Because up to that point, I had never had any hospitalizations, no surgeries, nothing. I was perfectly healthy child, teenager through my 20s. I mean, never had a problem. And then all of a sudden, bam, I can't even take care of myself. I can't take care of my family. I was pretty dark and depressed. To that point, it was a very gloomy time of life. And having a husband suffering in chronic pain, and me suffering from a bunch of different conditions I had no idea had an underlying emotion associated with those. So it was pretty powerful to find that book.
Interesting, though. So you're on this quest looking for something for him to help him. But in the meantime, you actually at that time were going through, you said, a gloomy, dark time with your own symptoms and experiences.
So as a mom, you're so accustomed to putting your needs last. And that's just what I was accustomed to, was I got to take care of my husband because he needs to provide for us, and I need to take care of these kids. And so, his health was more important than my own. And so that was also underlying problem that I was repressing at the time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And probably why some symptoms, they probably became like worse over time if you're not addressing or dealing with putting yourself also first in taking care of your healing needs.
Yes, absolutely.
So when you first handed the book to him, there was, or even after the seminar on the, conditions related to stress, the mind-body conditions, at that point, had you even thought that could be you too? Or were you still just thinking your stuff was purely physical and you just only thought to associate it with maybe an option for him?
Oh yeah, definitely. I only thought mine were physical. Everyone thinks, well, I'm different. That's not what mine's from. I actually have a diagnosis. This is what the doctor said. And so that's the truth. And this is what it is now. And this is what I have. And instead of, everyone says, I have my fibromyalgia, I have chronic back pain, instead of saying I experience it. Mm-hmm. It's almost like they're writing their own death sentence by giving themselves the diagnosis, because your body believes everything you say at a cellular level. So when you say, I have this, I have that, your body says yes, and then it manifests it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Have you ever heard of dynamic neural retraining system? I know it's a little different from like the TMS protocol, but have you heard of that program?
No, I haven't.
No. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a brain rewiring program that I have been doing for the last 13 months. And it's totally in line with what you just said, which is it's actually, we do incremental training, which is basically like exposure therapy. Mm-hmm. If you have sensitivities to things, so that you can re-teach your brain that you don't actually have this problem or reaction or sensitivity to that thing. Mm-hmm. And it just made me think when you said that, how I remember thinking, oh, but I don't know what is causing this. And they're like, that's a good thing. It's actually a good thing if you're not saying I have a sensitivity to XYZ or because then it's easier to create a new story.
Yes, absolutely.
So it made me think of that. So when you had your husband first read the book and he said, hey, I think you need to read this too, were you completely open right away, or was there resistance initially?
Oh yeah, because we had open communication about what he was reading. So he'd read a little bit every night and he would explain to me his thoughts on it. And I was just kind of blown away at the information that he was receiving. And when he said, this applies to you too, I was immediately interested in how, because most of my focus was on getting him better and not on myself. And so for me to take an inward look as well was kind of refreshing, and something that I was so desperately needing, because up to that point, all I'd really done was a little bit of energy work. And up to that point, all I wanted was someone to validate my feelings and say, yes, it's okay. And yes, I'm not speaking my truth. And that's why I have hypothyroidism. And yes, I have childhood wounds and trust issues. And that's why I have these female problems. And that all made sense on a chakra energy level for me. And so to get even more in tune with Dr. Sarno's way of doing things and learning things, it was really rewarding. And so I was almost seeking out knowledge of how to help myself in a different way as well, because I was sick of the medication. It wasn't working. I was always trying to up my medication, change my medication, and it was just, I never got any better. I never felt any better, and I was tired of being tired and sick all the time. It was just completely draining, and I wasn't the mom I wanted to be. I wasn't the caretaker of my family like I wanted to be. I wasn't the wife I wanted to be. And I was just desperate to get better. And so for me to read something and how to better myself was just ammunition for me to get on the right path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how beautiful was it that you guys were actually on that journey together? Do you feel it made a difference being able to have each other there to not only support each other, but to actually have a deeper understanding of what you each were going through on that path?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I can't imagine being on that journey alone, or not being able to speak to your spouse about it and have an understanding, a common ground where you can bounce ideas off of each other and have a better understanding and a foundation of how to move forward, and knowing what each person needs to hear each day as they're trying to heal is, I mean, that made such a huge difference for both of us.
That's so awesome. I think that's so important to have somebody like that, and awesome that you guys were both able to be there in that way for each other.
Absolutely.
And Dr. Sarno, a lot of people on this kind of chronic pain, dis-ease in the body healing journey, Dr. Sarno seems to be a starting point. Like it's usually a Dr. Sarno book that they read and they're like, oh my God, this is me. It's written all over the pages. Yeah. And then where do you go from there? What were like some of the tools that you started implementing right away? How did you approach the healing from that initial point?
Well, I mean, simple acknowledgement that is your personality and that is the trauma you've gone through. The simple acknowledgement was such a huge stepping stone for me. I know men are very different from women. Men they want to know how to fix it, and they want step-by-step tools. And my husband wanted to hear a healing story exactly like his, and I wasn't like that at all. I didn't need a how-to. I just wanted someone to listen and validate that, yes, this is what I'm feeling. And as I work with men and women, I see that difference. Men want, okay, just tell me how to do it, and I'm going to do exactly what you say, and I'm going to do the steps. And that's that perfectionistic tendencies coming out. And the women, they just want to listen to my story, and there's so much power in just listening and feeling heard and validated. And so from there, after Dr. Sarno's books, my husband picked up Steve Ozanich's book, Gabor Mate, Louise Hayes, Carol K. Truman, Byron Katie. All of these authors have such amazing content, and they're just a powerhouse of wealth and knowledge in the mind-body way of life and the healing.
There are all some authors that are sitting in my little giant book collection on my desk right now. Yeah. And so what tools? So I completely agree. I know for me, just even, this is me. This is me. This is like literally, this is it. This is the answer. That alone, I felt almost instant relief, and I think it was not having the fear anymore, like you said, I'm so sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I think that creates this fear of, we're not going to get better. There's no answers. Nothing's working. Am I going to get worse? And almost the minute you can associate this mind-body connection, it kind of helps the fear in a sense dissipate. I know for a lot of people, just the reduction of fear and the knowing isn't enough. And there's a lot of steps out there we can take, like journaling. I know Dr. Shubanar has some specific type of therapy work you can do with somebody and or even on your own. He has a book where you can kind of self-guide yourself through it. Was there anything that you implemented that really worked for you, or that was a huge, a powerful tool for your healing?
So my husband, he did everything Dr. Sarno said. He wanted to do this step by step. He's going to do exactly what he says because, the desperation speaks volumes. When you are in that bad of pain, you will do exactly what anyone says. And so he did all the journaling, and he did all the deep childhood work, and he got the workbook. And I didn't go that route because I didn't have the childhood trauma that he did. I had perceived trauma, which can be just as detrimental as actual childhood trauma. And so, like I said, I went back to the emotion associated with each physical thing. And that's what I'm a huge proponent of, validating the emotion associated with each physical manifestation instead of focusing on the physical. And so my husband and I, we got to this point where we'd wake up and we'd like, how did you sleep? How did you sleep? How do you feel? How do you feel? And it was always this back and forth about who felt worse and who slept worse. And that in itself is such a negative thing to do. And so we made an agreement that we're not going to talk about how bad we slept anymore. We're not going to ask each other how we're feeling. We're going to only talk about the positive things. And so our positive began to outweigh our negative. And the more we incorporated and filled up our wells of positive versus the negative. Speaking even is just so powerful. Speaking about your pain in a positive way. I'm getting a little better, or I'm feeling a little better today, instead of, oh, it was such a bad night, or I've had such a rough day. I mean, your language is such a powerful tool, and what you're focusing on. I mean, are you focusing on the pain, and how long is it going to be there? How long is it going to last? How much longer till it comes back? How bad is it? What is your focus? What are you focusing on all day? Are you focusing on your pain? Or are you distracted from your pain? Are you finding things to be grateful for? That was a huge thing for the both of us. Physical exercise, we've started to trust our bodies, especially me. I loved running. That was my thing, and I had to quit CrossFit and I had to quit running because I was just too worn out. Like, working out and exercising completely drained me, and it would set me back a couple of days just physically exerting myself. And so just not fearing that and going out there and just enjoying it was a powerhouse of healing for me. Just trusting that I was doing the right thing for my body by moving my body, and not fearing that it's going to fall apart out of nowhere.
Yes, absolutely.
As far as journaling goes, like I said, I'm not a huge proponent of journaling. I think there's a time and a place for it. I know a lot of people don't like journaling because they don't want to acknowledge the pain that they feel. And I think that was most of my problem. I know with Nicole Sachs, I love the way that she journals, and that Dr. Sarno recommends, journaling about your personality, journaling about your trauma, journaling about, I can't remember the other one.
Current stressors.
Yes. I love the idea of journaling out the rage, because when you advise someone, hey, you need to just journal about all these things, it's like, I always tell my clients, I want you to just write it ugly. I want you to say all the ugly things. Write it out like no one will ever read this. No one's going to judge you for it. Drop all the F-bombs. Say all the mean things. Say you hate your husband, you hate your kids, you hate your mom, you hate your job. Just say it and just get it out and just speak your truth. And then when you're done, that frees up so much energy to take a different look at your life and change your perspective and say, okay, maybe that's not completely true. How could this perspective change, and how could I perceive this a different way? And so changing your perception on all of that rage that you've taken out of your body, because your body is just a storage container for all these emotions that we just push down and tell ourselves that we're not feeling. Just freeing that energy and not having to store that emotion anymore is just very powerful. And so I think there's a time and a place. Like I said, I know for myself, I don't journal daily. I don't journal weekly. I don't even journal monthly. I journal when I start feeling anxiety, because I know that I'm living in the future when I'm having anxiety and I'm not in the present moment. And so coming back, writing my things out, and acknowledging where I'm at and being truthful with myself, and not trying to be the nice, goodest person that, I've been brought up to be. That's very powerful. And that takes me out of my anxious feelings, and it calms my troubled heart, and it helps me gain a better perspective on life.
That's awesome. So you feel, it sounds like you're really in tune now with all of that.
Oh yeah. It's taken me a long time to figure out what works for me and what works for most people, but you work in this field long enough, and you're desperate enough to get better and to feel better and to get away from your chronic pain, then you're going to figure it out real quick.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I can attest to that. So in the journey from the time you realized who Dr. Sarno was and read the book and all that good stuff, along the way, what were your biggest challenges?
Your stress never changes in life. And a lot of people are like, well, I better quit my job because that's what's adding stress, or I better get divorced because that's what's adding stress, or make these big life changes because that's what's adding stress. But sometimes you can't get away from what's causing you stress. And for me, that was a huge aha moment because I knew what my biggest stressors were. My biggest stressors were a blended family, having a new marriage, um, and having to parent differently, and having to deal with two ex spouses that were going through hard times themselves and were giving us a hard time and a run for our money and making our kids' lives harder than they should be. Me shifting my focus, and not being the victim of other people's choices, that was huge for me. My perspective change is what was the biggest thing for me, because I can't run away from my stress. I can't change other people's choices. I had to loosen the reins and just throw the reins up and say, I am no longer in control. I'm only in control of how I can feel about these things. And I refuse to live in a state of anger all the time. And I don't want to live in a state of frustration, and I don't want to be sick anymore. And so I started freeing up my thinking patterns about, okay, this person is frustrating to me, but why are they that way? What did they have to go through in their life to make them be who they are? And that freed up a lot of space for me to have compassion for other people, and not judgment, and not the persecution that I was always the victim. I was always the persecutor, and just changing that to be a conscious creator instead of always persecuting people and me being the victim to their choices. That is where my pain started to lessen, when I could give them a little bit of grace and a little bit of compassion, and not make it about what I need to do to change my life, and just say, it is what it is, and I'm going to be okay with it.
Absolutely. And you know how you're saying, some people think they have to, okay, well, I have to reduce my stress, so I need to quit this job or end this relationship or change this. Well, the thing about life is it's not really that simple. You know, you have to change the perception, because, okay, I can quit this job, but I'm going to have another job eventually. And no matter where we are in life, there's always going to be difficult people or difficult situations. So to me, it seems the best thing to do is then change my perception about people or difficult situations, and how can I show up differently, because you can't really run from every factor of stress forever.
Absolutely.
You know?
And I think that takes us back to our own childhood upbringing. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it a million times over, because I feel like it's such an important aspect of the mind-body connection, is who we had to be for our parents to get love. Did you need love from your mom or your dad more as a kid? Mine was my mom. I needed love from my mom because she wasn't there, because she would work nights. And so I'd be at school all day. And then by the time I got home from school, she'd leave for work. And so my mom was never really around. And for some reason, I just needed my mom, because my dad was always around at night, and I always knew I could lean on him. And my mom wasn't there emotionally for me at that time and that critical age. And so I always was seeking her love. And the only way I knew how to gain her love was through being a nice girl, from doing what she asked, keeping the house clean, helping with my siblings, you know. And so I've carried those responsibilities and those personality traits into my adulthood. And I still have my OCD tendencies that I had to have for her. I still have perfectionistic tendencies. I still, you know, being a caretaker is so important to me. Being a good mom. I've told this story before, but a few years ago, I am known to be OCD, and I would vacuum my house every single day for no other satisfaction than my own. And my husband came home, and he's like, you know, you don't have to vacuum every day, right? And I thought to myself, well, if you don't care, then who am I vacuuming for? And it really made me take a step back and think, who am I vacuuming for? Who am I being? And why am I this person? Why is this so important to me that I feel like I have to do it, or I have no worth? And I thought, wow, this is something I learned from my mom, because if the house wasn't clean, then I wasn't worthy of love, you know? And so I've carried that into my marriage, and I carried that through other relationships, and that's how I parent, you know? And I've really had to take a step back and not judge my own kids on their behavior, because I don't want them to perceive themselves and carry that into their relationships as they get older. And my husband's the same way. He is an overachiever. Every time he achieved something as a kid, he would get a good job, Billy, you know, from his parents. And so now he's very successful and well known in his industry. And I'm happy for him, but I don't love him for that. And so I have to remind him, if you're not the most successful person, and I don't care, I'm still going to love you. And he's the same way. If you don't vacuum every day, I'm still going to love you. But we're still trying to please our parents, and we're full grown adults, you know. And so it's very interesting how we carry these things into our adulthood that we've learned as kids.
Absolutely. And it's why it's so good to be, I always say it's so important to be curious. Like, ask yourself all the time, well, why do I have this belief? Well, why do I have this story? Well, why do I feel this need to do this thing all the time? You know, is it mine, or am I carrying it from, like you said, childhood, and this need that I was fulfilling as a young child?
Absolutely.
And the thing that is so great about being curious and asking these questions is that it gives us choice, because now as an adult, you can choose if that supports you still, or if it doesn't. You know, you can choose and say, you know, I actually really just enjoy the plushness of, you know, fresh vacuumed carpet, and I'm going to keep doing it, but this time I'm going to do it for me, you know? And what's funny is when we start making those choices and then we're actually really doing it for ourselves and it becomes authentic, I don't think it carries the stress. It's more enjoyable, you know, it's more with joy. Like, I would be doing it with a smile on my face because I'm just sitting there thinking, oh, I love this. It makes me feel good.
Absolutely.
You know? So curiosity, I think, leads to choice.
Absolutely. There's so much freedom in that.
Freedom. Yeah. And choice leads to freedom. And like you said, I see the victim role being a really kind of common theme in a lot of people who suffer from chronic pain and dis-ease, myself included. And that was a really hard pill for me to swallow, was to say, oh, wow, wait, I'm really good at this victim card, but what if I could choose something different? And I think that leads to personal freedom and liberation. So,
absolutely.
I mean, for me, it was the most empowering decision I've ever made in my life. And I think it all leads to compassion. Not only you were saying it helps me have compassion for other people and understanding why they might be the way they are, but I think it also helps add compassion for self.
Oh, you know? For sure.
That self-love game gets real.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So I guess I'm curious, I think we've already kind of touched on it, but maybe if you have anything to add as far as the course of this healing journey through the chronic disease and pain in your body, how overall has it impacted your mind and your mental state today, and then the quality of your life?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, that whole thing opens up so much curiosity, and I feel like that curiosity is such a proponent for our health and for our healing, because if you don't question how you got there, then you're really just putting a Band-Aid on it. I feel like that's such a huge thing for us to understand the root cause and not just run out, you know, get an injection, have a surgery, take a medication. I mean, that is so common in our Western culture to do all those things, and people don't even bat an eye. It's just an unconscious thinking pattern. And so to question and say, okay, how did I actually get to this place where I'm having these pains and having this dis-ease in my body? what is the root cause of it, and really digging deep, being curious, and being honest and vulnerable with yourself, and admitting that yes, this is actually a hard time for me in my life, or yes, that was actually a really traumatic event I went through, or this is who I was brought up to be, and this is who I've become, and to just break up that pattern that you don't want to keep moving forward because it's been a generational pattern. You know, your mom taught it to you, and your grandma taught it to her, and so this is who you are, and this is who you're supposed to be, and this is how you're going to teach your kids. And just say, actually, I want to change things, and actually, I'm curious as to how these things fell into place, and I actually don't believe these things anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
taking responsibility. It can be scary though at first, you know, and I think a lot of people mistake it for not wanting to assume responsibility because they think it's that maybe they're being told it's their fault, and it's not saying it's our fault. It's just our responsibility to become aware and then make different choices.
For sure.
That support us.
You know, as a mom, that has been probably the biggest blessing for me through this whole thing. Not only, you know, being able to help my husband heal and help myself heal through all these things, but being able to parent my kids in a different way that I was brought up has been the most powerful thing that I've ever witnessed in my life, to give my kids these tools that I teach to others. I mean, it's been so rewarding. My stepdaughter, Kaya, she's 13, almost 14 now, but my husband and I were married when she was just 2, and she suffered from debilitating migraines for years and years, and we took her to all these specialists and had all these MRIs and CAT scans and tried all the medications, and we were told she had allergies, and nothing ever helped her either. And then, you know, we got into this mind-body thing, and we realized, well, she's a worrier, and she carries an extreme amount of stress, and she's back and forth between parents, and she experiences all this animosity, and no wonder she has these horrible migraines that make her puke every day. It's no wonder. Her whole body is just stored emotion because she's such a peacemaker and a people pleaser. And so, you know, we started teaching her these tools of meditation and being able to calm your body. And, you know, we used a little bit of oils with her to calm her down and get her to that place where she could, her body could be at homeostasis, so she could relax for a minute and think clearly. And I'm not kidding you, my kids have changed, and the way they think has changed. I mean, my youngest daughter is 9, and she used to suffer from chronic bloody noses, which may seem trivial compared to a lot of the pain that people go through. But, I mean, I was having to get her nose cauterized several times, and it didn't work. And when I understood the emotion associated with bloody noses, which is feeling overlooked as the youngest child, that made so much sense to me. And then I could address her emotion as a little girl, and that frees up so much energy as a mom to be able to care for your kid in a way that you don't feel like you need to run them to the doctor all the time. You just need to address their emotions.
She just needed to feel seen.
Yes.
And I mean, there's nothing better than that. It literally helped you guys, you going through what you went through, to lead you into this healing journey that actually was a catalyst in helping how you parent and then help your kids, because so many people would just write a bloody nose off as a physical thing and never ever take the time to understand the underlying emotion. And that's a great, how you said, oh, people might say, oh, it's a bloody nose, it's not much compared to what so many people feel from chronic stuff. But that bloody nose, you don't know what that leads to in 10, 15, 20 more years when she's in her adulthood, when it's not addressed.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's a powerful tool that you have now and have your kids notice. Like, does your family, do you guys all collectively notice the difference as you've been on this journey?
For sure. And, you know, my kids, they know these tools and they understand them. And so even though help each other. Someone comes home with a headache or a stomach ache or whatever it is that they're dealing with that day, because stress doesn't go away. Just because we figured out the mind-body disorder doesn't mean we don't have stress, doesn't mean we're not going to experience different physical manifestations. It just means that we know how to address them differently. I don't say to my kids, oh, go take an ibuprofen, or, oh, let's make in a doctor appointment. I say, okay, what's going on with you? What happened at school? How are you feeling? What's going on in your day? And I don't know about you, but I was never asked that really deeply as a child. I wasn't asked, my answer I thought was the right answer, was good, fine, and I just think back to as a kid and a teenager, all the things I was actually feeling, and I was too afraid to say it because I didn't feel like anyone really cared or would acknowledge my emotions. And so I just would push it under the rug, and that led to where I was, suffering and pain. But to give my kids these tools and for them to help each other, and my daughter, she'll just start doing jumping jacks because it's a distraction from the emotion. And it's not that I want to distract her from the emotion, but she knows that if she gets her heart pumping, and that she'll be able to think more clearly, and she won't be having all these negative thoughts because those endorphins will kick in, and that she can think clearly and change her perspective. And that's what I'm teaching my kids. It's not that your thinking is wrong, but maybe there's a different way you can look at things. And so moving your body and getting your endorphins moving is a huge catalyst to get you there. And we use oils in my home, and we haven't been to the doctor, and I can't even tell you how many years. We quit our insurance. We have just this very small policy where we don't even use our insurance ever because it's not even on our radar anymore. It's just very powerful to have these mind-body tools, and with my kids, that's so powerful.
It's amazing. I love that they have tools. Like, you literally are teaching them tools so that and so many of us don't have that. They always, unfortunately, in the mainstream narrative is always that, oh, it runs in the family, it's genetic. Oh, cancers are genetic, back pain's genetic, this problem is genetic. No, these physical manifestations are not genetic. The learned behaviors and the way we suppress or repress emotion or aren't honoring or owning our truths, those are passed. That's what's passed down.
Absolutely. It's learned behavior. And even my kids, they'll text me while they're at school, what's the emotion for this? What's the emotion for that? And I'll text them back, and they'll say, yeah, my friend's having back pain. And that makes sense. And so my kids are teaching their friends, and it's just comical, but it's powerful and it's rewarding, and I love it. It's so cool.
It's amazing. They have emotional intelligence at a young age, which is so hard to develop sometimes, and it's not common.
Absolutely. Yep.
So good on you for doing that, because you're raising, you're changing a trajectory, and you're raising kids that get to also be, they're going to be life changers.
Absolutely.
Because when we heal ourselves and we become the best version of us, and we step into this authentic truth, we are making a contribution to the collective conscious.
Absolutely.
So that's beautiful. When you were telling me the story about the jumping jacks, I got like little tingles all over, and just like, I felt like my eyes were getting like moist because I was so happy. Just, it's so pretty and beautiful. And I don't know, it just makes me feel good hearing it. So I would say, I'm curious if this is your answer then, because I always ask people what their biggest gift from your pain is. And I would say, did you just tell me the story? Did you just answer that question without me asking?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because that's amazing.
Being able to help my kids is definitely the most rewarding. And, I love working with clients, and it's just very powerful to hear each person's story, and no person's the same. And I coach very differently for every person, because no person has the same trauma, the same stressors in life. And so everyone needs a different tool to be able to heal, and to be able to see that in themselves, and to know that they are their own healer.
Yes, absolutely.
That has just been so rewarding for me.
How long did it take you from the time you read Dr. Sarno's book? Because you had a laundry list of symptoms that you were dealing with. So what was your timeline?
So I started having vertigo, which was my first symptom, in 2009. I didn't come across Dr. Sarno's book until 2015. And then I started coaching in 2018. So, 3 years of gaining knowledge and all these tools, and I just couldn't soak up the information fast enough. My husband's like, okay, not another self-help book. Find something that is different. And I'm like, no, I love these. I can't get enough. And I'm still, to this day, I'm still reading, all these tools and mind body things that are so powerful. And I can't get enough. I just feel like it's the most important thing in my life right now.
Mm-hmm. I agree. For me too. I just geek out on neuroscience and mind body stuff. And I'm like, this is fun. This is fun to me. And there's always going to be new information, because the world of understanding our mind, our body, our brain is it's evolving so rapidly that we're always learning more.
Absolutely. And I can go back and read the same book 3 times and get new information out of it every single time. And
yep. Yeah, I've read the Mind Body Prescription and Steve's book twice now each. Uh-huh. And I always try to have an extra copy of the Mind Body Prescription on hand, because when you're having that conversation with someone, sometimes I just want to be able to give it to them, because otherwise I know it'll take another few weeks or a few months for them to finally go buy it. Yep, I'm like, definitely. Look, it's here when you're ready for it.
We've handed out more than our fair share of those books. I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm, I bet. And so 5 years ago, when you're, first attending this seminar, or let's say before you attend the seminar and you don't even know who Dr. Sarno is, would you have ever thought, if, you met somebody on the street 6 years ago and they said, you're going to be a mind, body, and a pain coach, would you have ever even thought that was going to happen?
I would have laughed in their face and said, what in the hell is that? I don't even know what you're talking about, which is probably what most people think when I tell them what I do anyway. So
yeah. And so was it just a natural progression of, as you kept learning and taking care of yourself, that you found a drive to want to also help others?
Yeah. So, once you understand the mind-body connection and you have these moments where you heal different things within yourself, you can't help but shout it from the rooftops to every person that you know. I can see, Jane Doe walking down the street, and I know exactly what's wrong with her, and I know exactly what emotion she's experiencing. And so I have all these friends and neighbors who are experiencing things, because I don't know a single person on the planet that doesn't have a mind-body
100%.
problem, or know someone who does.
100%.
And so someone would say, I have a headache, I have a stomach ache, I have whatever. And I'd be like, this is what's going on for you. And they would look at me like, what? And I just keep talking and tell them. And I was a little bit timid and a little scared to speak my truth at first. And the more comfortable I got, the more people were receptive to it. And so I started helping neighbors. I started helping friends. I started talking to everybody I know about it, and helping people, actually. And they would message me or call me and say, wow, that really resonated and that's helped me so much. And I'd be on the phone, with friends for hours, and my husband's like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, just helping her mind, body. And he's like, you need to be getting paid for this and not. And I'm like, he said, you should be a coach for people, because you help me, and that's what people need. And so I was just thought to myself, wow, I do. This would totally just light me on fire. This is exactly what I was born to do. And so I was just full speed ahead after that. And that's where we're at today. I can't get enough of it. So
I love it.
Helping people is my passion.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Because I'm doing the podcast. It's a message that has to be heard from the whole world. So I'm like, I have to share this. I have to share this. People have to hear testimonials. They have to hear stories. Like I like you said, I don't believe there's a single person that doesn't have some type of TMS or mind body symptom of some sort going on. It's just that we live in a culture that has gotten so used to focusing on just the physical perspective. And the other thing I say all the time is we've also gotten used to accepting things that are common as normal. You know, we write so many things off as normal because it's common, and it's not normal. And it's like, I just want people to know, hey, you actually don't just need to just live with that.
Yeah. Yep. There's no reason. You just have to say, okay, this is what it is, and I guess this is what I'm going to suffer with for the rest of my life, because that's just not the truth. I mean, I've helped so many people overcome so many different symptoms that it's just mind-boggling to me that people just accept their conditions and accept their fate and don't question it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. I think we need a lot of people who heal from stuff to continue to give and pay it forward and help other people to step into their self-healer within.
Absolutely.
Because I see a lot of that happening too, where we've been kind of taught that we need to go to something and somebody outside of ourselves to heal. And we're giving our power away, and we're disempowering ourselves to not recognize that we are self-healers and that our body wants to be in homeostasis, and our body wants to be well for us. It just needs our attention sometimes.
Yep. I mean, most people don't think of their pain as a blessing, but I'm here to tell you, you should be thanking your body to waking up. It's waking you up to come into your true self. It's waking you up to stop repressing all of the stress and the emotion that you actually do want to feel, but it's too scary to feel, and you've been told that it's not acceptable to feel that way. And so I always tell people on my Instagram story, have you thanked your body today? Because thanking your body is a different way to look at it. Instead of berating your body for giving you the pain, thank it and say, thank you for bringing me into the knowledge that something's not right.
100%. Absolutely. Where can people find you?
I am most commonly found on Instagram at Pain Free for Good. I'm also on Facebook at Pain Free for Good, and you can find me at painfreeforgood.com as well.
Awesome. I will drop the links for those in the show notes. And do you have, I think the message you just gave the listeners is fabulous. Do you have anything you want to add to that for anybody who is at that point where we all were at one point in our life, lost, confused, hurting, and not seeing the way out?
Yes, I just would say don't give up and don't accept your diagnosis, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and all you have to do is be willing to walk that way.
Awesome. I love also, on a side note, that you use oils. I'm a huge fan. I love all of your little lives, or not lives, but I guess they're not lives, but your little Instagram stories where you talk about oils.
Yes. Most people don't understand the impact the oils have. Most people think they're a placebo effect. And I actually questioned it at one point myself. But the more I thought about it, the more I understood. It brings you back into the present moment. I mean, when you can think of how your grandma smelled, or maybe the perfume you were wearing on your first date with your husband, or, you know, any kind of smell that brings you back to a memory. You can also think of orange is an uplifting scent, and lavender is very calming. And so when you can associate different scents with an emotion, then you're much more likely to come back to homeostasis. And when you're in homeostasis, there's so much freedom, because that frees up the space for you to think clearly. And so I love oils. I am a big proponent of people using them, especially on their healing journey. And I will never stop saying all the good things about them.
I will not either. I love them too. I think what you're saying makes total sense. And I haven't actually thought of it that way before. I have witnessed a lot of really wonderful success stories from oils for various reasons. And I think they do smell wonderful. And you know, it's funny. I don't believe they're placebo, but even if they were, why? No, that's fantastic. Why not have a wonderful, high vibrational, healthy placebo? You know, if it's working, if you believe in it and then it works, who cares why it's working? It's high vibrational. They smell delightful. They're enjoyable. So I even use them on my dog. I actually got rid of like all my dog's normal medicine. I remember my dog got like a wound once, and I had all these oils, and I ran to the store to buy something like, I don't even know the names of things because it's been years, but something that people put under Band-Aids. And then I read the warning and I'm like, wait, why am I running to the store to buy this stuff when I have frankincense at home, or, you know, lavender that is antiseptic? Like, I'm like, I could just use oils on my dog. It's more safe than something that says, do not ingest, keep away from eyes, keep away from nose, keep away from mouth, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. We were in their medicine cabinet with oils. And so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Good for you. Here. I love it. All right. Well, I love everything we've talked about. It's been a beautiful chat. I hope the listeners will appreciate all of the great information you've shared. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Nope. I just hope you guys are all having a little faith on your healing journey. And if you are questioning your healing journey, quit questioning it, because the answer is within yourself.
100%. Thank you for sharing that. All right, self-healers, that is a wrap. I hope you enjoyed Heather's story. If you feel inspired, please click subscribe and also share your message with a friend on your social media. It takes a tribe, and your support means the world to me. So remember, 1 minute every day of really feeling the gratitude around something in your present moment. Each day this week. And until next time, make this week great.